see, we could have like a theme song. We could
Oh.
have, yeah. So this is going live to my YouTube audience and my Twitter audience. It's our first live broadcast.
Wow. First
We
live
are.
broadcast ever.
Woo!
We're big
So
time now.
In theory, people can join in on the conversation, which is really cool. This is brought to us. This is presented to you by the Sportscast, part of the Sportscast network now. So, okay, that was the good news. Now the rest of the episode is going to be bad neus.
Now, when we do this, so we can like share this and tell them we're live. Is that how we do it going forward tonight?
Yeah.
After tonight.
Yeah, you
Nice.
could. We are live right now. Wow, we got people actually watching. Hey, people, what's up?
Awesome. Hey, everybody.
Hi. Yeah. Well, let's talk. Bengals 19, Steelers 17. Wow. Just wow.
The slide continues, and I don't mean the kind you do on a sled or a tube. It's been awful. It's not been great. Kind of had a feeling, everyone's like, oh, well, we always beat the Bengals, not this Bengals. It's impressive they held them to 19 points. If you want to take away something, the defense wasn't horrible yesterday. Anybody that can keep the Bengals under 30 points right now, I think is doing a pretty decent job, but the offense has become so horrific. Once again, let's just call it what it was. Russell Wilson was not good enough for these guys to win. 17 of 31 for 148 yards and a touchdown. Sacked a bunch of times. And that's the other thing, too. You can call Russell Wilson out, but how about that offensive line that you can call out, too? Because the offensive line has been absolutely horrific. Wilson's taken 33 sacks since he became the starter in Week 7. 33 sacks they've given up since Week 7.
I blame it all on one person, Dan Moore. I don't know what the heck is going on with the dude. Has to be hurt or something like that. He has been horrible these past few weeks.
Yeah, he's been not good. I mean, nobody's been really good. I mean, it's even like listening to the Steelers broadcast of it, which I've been trying to do lately, and they're doing their best to make the Steelers sound good, and it's hard. The Christmas Day game was even harder. And so now you find yourself doing what you didn't want to do. You got to go play Baltimore. Yeah, in Baltimore Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Another 8 o'clock game, Joe. How about that?
Another non-Sunday game. How about that?
Great. Right, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. And, here's the deal. Like, I think a lot of Steeler fans and us Yinzers can get always excited about, hey, a lot of times we beat the Ravens when we shouldn't in the regular season. I feel the times we've beaten them in the playoffs, we had a good chance. We probably should have beaten them. But I just look at this game coming up as two teams moving in two different directions. And that's kind of what you had against Cincinnati on Sunday. They came in on a 4-game winning streak. We're sliding at 3-game losing streak. And the Bengals had something to play for. They needed to win that game, and they did. So they go out on a 5-game winning streak, which is pretty impressive. You can say everything you want about the Bungles and Cincy Bungles and this, that, and the other, but they did it. They did it against some pretty good competition. They beat Denver, a playoff team. They beat the Steelers, a playoff team, to get there. And here they are, and they're sitting out of the playoffs. I did find it funny. I guess I don't know if this is true or not because, obviously workday schedule. But I saw in between work that are the Bengals suing the NFL or filing an official complaint about the Chiefs sitting all their starters is what I saw today.
I haven't heard of that, but
I saw that today. I don't know if that's true, but again, the Chiefs had no reason to start. But then I thought I tweeted about this earlier today. So the Bengals had the Chiefs had no reason to really start anybody. However, contrarily, nobody I think wanted to play this Bengals offense either. They were going to be that team. I don't think they were going to the AFC title game. Don't get me wrong, but they're an offense that is prolific and can put up points on you, and you're going to have to put up points to score to beat them. So I don't think anybody, Chiefs, the Bills, whoever, really wanted to play Cincinnati if it came down to that.
It was all up to the Chiefs, and they held the cards. Oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't have to play anybody. Their position was secure. They got the number 1 seed. Okay, but still, if I'm the Chiefs, I want nothing to do with the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the playoffs a few years ago. So, and it's I would have liked to have seen the Bengals in the playoffs. That is one of the best offenses we've seen in a long time.
Right.
My goodness, Joe
Right.
Burrow is just so
And
good.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I don't think anybody wanted to find themselves in a shootout with these guys because when it comes down to a shootout, Joe, anything can happen. And that's just remember that Bills Chiefs game, AFC Championship game a couple years ago. It was insane. So I think that was kind of part of it. So did the Chiefs do it on purpose? I tend to think not, but I could be convinced that they did.
Yeah. It is impressive, though, if we want to look at a bright spot. The Steelers' defense, at the beginning of the game, the Bengals basically had their way with the Steelers, and that's how it happens almost every single game.
Right.
This is the worst starting team of all time, offense and defense. Offense, they do absolutely nothing. Well, they do absolutely nothing the whole game. But the defense is always horrible. That very first drive that the opponent has, then they settle down and figure it out. For them, they just let the Bengals just walk down the field and get an easy touchdown. But then that was the only touchdown the Bengals scored. That is extremely impressive that they held the Bengals to just 1 touchdown and 4 field goals.
Yeah, no, it really is. And the other thing is, though, but that when you look at the offense, when I talked about top of the show, is the counter was horrible. We were just running the ball like it's 1972. And the other thing is, too, like, I don't know if Steelers realize this. You have a power back. His name's Najee Harris. And they ask him to run high-speed back pitches. You have a speed back. His name's Jaylen Warren. And you ask him to do power back things. And the combination wasn't working. If there was ever time, if you want to get in a shootout, there was ever time to take to the air, you can do it. Now, look, they did. But guess what? George Pickens couldn't catch crap yesterday. For whatever reason. I mean, to the point where you had some of the fans, if you saw it, were saying he was tanking on purpose or he was just bad. Some of the passes in George Pickens' defense were horrible. Whatever the reason was, the offensive game plan in that first quarter was not a good one.
The game plan featured a run on first down almost every single time. Every single time. You knew every time it happened, I tweeted run pass. And every time it happened, I added to that. I just copied and pasted. By the end of the game, it was like 10,000 characters of just run pass. My goodness.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching a President's Athletic game, like Westminster versus Geneva or something. And like, yeah, run pass. And the Bengals, I don't know if you know this, they are a professionally coached team. They're kind of figuring that's what it's for, and they're going to run on first down, and well, la-di-da. And Najee Harris, ineffective, 12 carries, 36 yards. He averaged 3 yards a carry. Jaylen Warren, just a little better, 3.5 yards a carry. The Bengals defense is not world beaters, and they've had their problems. However, they're actually not a bad defensive front. They're not bad against the run, and Hendrickson's probably one of the best, pass rushers in the league. So, I don't know. I just don't know what the game plan was, Joe. I don't get it. And here you have, again, you had almost 11 days to prep for this game. And the other thing is you're looking at like, didn't we just lay 44 points against these guys like less than a month ago? 44 points. Now, granted, you can say, well, the Bengals countered and they had Jake some adjustments. Okay, that's fair. But we made no adjustments at all. And this is a Bengals team, which to maybe the theory is correct about not wanting to play them. If you blink, you're down 10-0 to them, and you were. First quarter scores Cincinnati 10, Steelers 0 as we go to the second quarter, and that's just not good.
The Hendrickson had 3.5 sacks on the game?
I think
like
so.
That?
Yeah, something like that.
I believe that he might have led the league or close to leading the league in sacks. He was absolutely destroying the Steelers offense. Did we make an adjustment? Did we help out Dan Moore? No. No. Yeah,
No.
the last game, the Steelers very smartly said, we're not gonna do our regular stuff. We know this is a high flying offense. We're gonna try to match them. We're gonna try to take it to them, and that was very smart, and it was great. And for some reason, and it worked. The Steelers offense was awesome that day. For some reason, this game they said, "Oh yeah, I know that worked before. We're gonna do the complete opposite of that." I don't know if it was the cold. I don't know what the heck they were thinking, but they had a formula that worked, and then they went the complete opposite of that. I don't understand.
I don't think anybody does either. And I don't think, again, in the years we've been doing this show, neither you or I have professed to be gurus or we know everything or have all the answers. We're certainly not saying we're better than, the coaches of the world. But I think the average fan that watches as much as we do and as educated as we are on it thought, what's the plan here? Because there seems to be no plan. And it's pretty evident there's no plan because you're getting your asses handed to you. You're down 13-7 at halftime. And and the thing was too, Joe, it was so bad that you're sitting there thinking, how in the world are we going to beat these guys in the second half? And I think one of the commentators on television said, I don't know what the Steelers need to do, but they need to fix this somehow because this is just not Steeler football, something to that effect. I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, I was kind of going back and forth to the broadcast. And they scored 10 points in the fourth quarter, which is nice, but they did nothing since. And once again, it's another game, Joe, where 2 quarters they score, 2 quarters they don't even score at all. So obviously at this point, and I feel like it's going to be a loss this Saturday, it's going to be another year where they're out in the playoffs. They make the playoffs, they're out. That'll be 8 years. And Arthur Smith obviously has not figured it out. The one thing that's been steadily improving since about week 7, since Wilson took over, is the play of Pat Freiermuth, who once again yesterday, not a bad day. He did what you want a tight end to do. 8 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. I'll take that any day of the week. I don't care who the tight end is. It doesn't matter if he's from Penn State. I know people can see the Penn State stuff in the background there, but it could be from Pitt. It could be from Notre Dame. I don't care. But that's what you want to have from a tight end. And Muth's giving it to you. Obviously, he's getting some chemistry built up, but I don't know. I feel like we're in the same wheel where, like, we're talking, well, Kenny Pickett, whose fault is it last year? Receivers running routes, him running awful plays, him getting sacked. I don't know because obviously, and I tweeted this out, George Pickens, he's your only real receiver. When he's not working, what the hell do you do, or who do you expect Russell Wilson to throw to?
This entire slide can all basically be attributed to George Pickens. This whole losing 3 games in 11 days, this whole losing this game, those 3 games in 11 days, they did not have Pickens and the offense fell apart because just like you said, they didn't have anybody to throw to. This game, I guess he was there. I guess he was physically there, but he's an absolute disaster right now.
He had 1 reception for 0 yards. That's his stat line. 1 reception for 0 yards. I mean, you just can't do that, folks, in the NFL. And then, I mean, your receivers combined had 8 catches. Jefferson had 3. Najee, so that's not even receiver. There's 4. Mike Williams had 1. So the other receivers, Mike Williams had 1. Van Jefferson had 3. George Pickens had 1. So there's your slots, your wideout, your split ends, whatever you want to call them. And your tight end had 8 and your running back had 4. So your tight end and your running back were your best receivers all day. That's a recipe for disaster, folks. And that can be also, is it Arthur Smith? Is it George Pickens? Is it, Russell Wilson? It's just it's been the word of the week for the last couple of weeks.
The above.
It's a quagmire of just giggity.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Did you see in the news today, the Jets and the Bears have requested permission to talk to Arthur Smith about a head coach job?
Go.
Buddy, I'll drive you to the airports. You know what? Arthur Smith, we'll do a Zoom call. We'll work on your resume. We'll work on your resume, your cover letter. Not that he's been horrible. I mean, the offense has improved, but it almost is like, I have this theory. I don't know if it's true or not. It's almost like, because, in the grand scheme of things, this Bengal game, it didn't matter. They were already in the playoffs. I wonder if they were thinking, let's not show the Ravens anything. Let's almost lull them in this false sense of security. Like, let's not show them anything. Hey, if that's the case, I don't know if you know this or not, but you guys play 2 or 3 times a year. I think they know what we do.
I don't think there's anything left to show them. I mean, what are they going to look at? I mean, they're going to blitz the crap out of them, because one way to kind of defend a blitz, right, is you run the ball well. And the Steelers have not been able to do that. They really haven't established the run very well at all, effectively all year, or maybe here and there a few games. That's about it. So, I think they're in big trouble. I really do. I mean, it would have been, if they would have won one of these games, Joe, I would have more confidence. If they would have won yesterday or Saturday, I would have had more confidence. I just don't see it against this Ravens team. Like I said, it's just 2 different teams moving in 2 different directions. And, of course, it has to be against the Ravens. That's why I thought, and I think you and I and Allison talked, if they played Houston, I felt they had a chance. Now, Houston did win Sunday. So I still felt like they would have had a chance against Houston because they've been up and down. The Ravens have been a smoke show. They've been great the last couple of weeks. They're arguably right back in that conversation. It's Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, and San Diego might be, right there's a dark horse too. And so, technically, the Bengals with a 5-game winning streak to finish the season, but they were so god awful in the beginning of the year. And if you look at it, I think it's funny. The Bengals Patriots game in Week 1 that cost the Patriots the number 1 overall pick by beating Cincinnati that week. Cincinnati losing to the Patriots, which has been a horrible team. They're a much better team than the Patriots in Week 1, and that had ramifications in Week 18.
Well, if the Steelers won any of these games, they would have beat the Ravens, and the reason they would have beat the Ravens is because the Ravens lost to the Raiders like in week 2 or whatever the heck it was. So
right,
it's crazy how that all happens.
It was just all setting up so well, Joe. We got in there. The Browns pulled an upset of the Ravens. We were in full control. We beat the Ravens. We beat the Bengals. But then things just started to go south with that loss to the Browns on a Thursday night after we, beat the Ravens. Then we go Thursday and we lose to Cleveland in Cleveland. That also had ramifications. That we were sitting here, Joe, 6 weeks ago on this same cast saying, you know what, we're sitting in the driver's seat right now. We're sitting pretty. Somehow we're doing it, but we're sitting in the driver's seat. Now we're, back in back seat there. We're like
10-3. We were 10-3. We were talking about competing for the number 1 seed. Now what are we? 6?
Right. And so I mean, it's just and I don't know. Again, it's just where it's not been a good combination. Honestly, I'm one of those guys in the field of I blame Tomlin for a lot of it. I think again. I think his time has come and gone as a Steelers coach. I think he's a good man. He's been a decent coach. But the whole no losing seasons, I think it's such a fraud. I think it's such a fiasco. And now you're talking about the Jets and somebody else wanting to talk to Arthur Smith. I've seen the same thing about Mike Tomlin. Let's trade Mike Tomlin. I'd trade Mike Tomlin in a heartbeat. I'd drive him too. I'd buy him a new suit and drive him to the airport, whatever it needs. They can have them.
We'll work on your resume also. We can. I got fire up the Microsoft Word. We'll get that. We'll get that resume all polished.
Right.
It would be there was a trade for John Gruden when he was the coach of the Raiders. He got traded to Tampa Bay, and they traded like 2 or 3 number 1 draft picks for him or something like that. Oh my God.
Yeah,
that would be incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all comes down to Saturday. The entire year, everything they've been working for since last January when Rooney said we need to win, we need to start winning playoff games.
Right.
I think he's starting this. I think Rooney is getting impatient and tired of this treadmill stuff. So here we go. here we go. We had this off season of Russell Wilson and Patrick Queen and all the additions and then the draft and everything has led to this Saturday. That's it. If you win that playoff game, if you can pull it off against the Ravens, and I actually think they actually have a chance. I think that I'm one of the few that think that this is a better case scenario because I had a feeling that the Houston was gonna beat them. I don't think.
Yeah, Tennessee.
I don't think, but they are very familiar with the Ravens, so I think they actually have a better chance against the Ravens. If they could pull that off, this season is a success. We say finally Tomlin got got the monkey off the back. Finally, he could win a playoff game. Finally, but if they lose, which is a dark chance, what is the spread now? Like 9.5 or something like that. Like everybody's if they lose, oh boy, this changes a lot for Tomlin. This changes a lot for Russell Wilson also. Russell Wilson has faded pretty bad these past few games. You could take every single game and say, Russ, what the heck are you doing? What did you do? Why did you throw that pick six? Why did you have that fumble? This past game, when they were 2 minutes left, for some reason, he decides to run for 3 yards and take like seconds off the clock when you only had a minute left. What the heck, dude? It's like he's making the problem is he's playing hero ball. He's saying, I need to put the team on my back. He is not that dude anymore. Maybe in his prime, he was saying he could put a team on his back. He can't do that right now.
Yeah, no, those are all good points. And we saw that against the Eagles. We saw that against the Ravens. And every game, he's regressing as much as the offensive line's regressing. And it's been hard to watch. I guess I don't totally dismiss what you're saying. I think they could go in. If there's one team they could upset and beat, it's the Ravens. And that's not being cocky about it. It's just one of those things. I would say the opposite. If the Ravens are struggling and we were like flying sky high, and if we had to host the Ravens the first game, I'd be worried. I don't think I'd be worried about it if it's anybody else. But since it's the Ravens, it's these two. And I die on this hill. There's no better rivalry in professional football right now than the Ravens and the Steelers, and it's been that way for years. That's why they're there Saturday night, 8:00. You have the Chargers and who is it? The 4:00 game, San Diego, and the Texans. Nobody cares. LA Chargers fans barely go to the games. Nobody cares. Texans fans in Houston care, but nobody outside of Houston cares. People outside of Baltimore, people outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania care. So that's why it's the 8:00 game. It's the premier game this weekend, and there's a reason for that because there's a very good chance the Steelers could win that game, and I think everybody knows that. So now chances are there's also a chance they could go in there and like what happened to Minnesota last night and get their doors blown off. So who knows? But that's the other thing too, Joe. Watching some of those other games, my wife and I sat there. We watched a little past halftime with that Vikings-Lions game till it got out of hand, and I don't see how in the heck we could ever compete with the Detroit Lions at any level right now.
Oh my God, that would be 100-0. That would be
it would be horrible. So, and I don't know if we could beat the Bills right now. We obviously can't beat the Chiefs right now. They smoked us, and the Ravens smoked us bad too. But it's the Ravens, so yeah.
I think maybe they might have a chance, and I say this because let's go back in the first time the Steelers and Ravens played this year. It was in Pittsburgh. The Steelers won 18-16 on 6 field goals. That was insane. The next time the Ravens destroyed them, what was that score? It was a no, I can't find it. But but it wasn't as close as it wasn't as much of a blowout as we think. I mean, that was the game where Russ was running for the end zone and got hit and
fumbled the ball. Then the pick six.
That was, and then I believe the Ravens just drove it like 90 some yards and scored a touchdown. That was a 14-point swing right there, and that was the game with the pick six. So, And that was also the game where the Ravens fumbled like 3 times and they happened to recover every single time.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Yeah.
If any of those things go the Steelers' way, that would have been at least a close game.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah, Mike Tomlin said at his press conference last week how, they have just died by the turnover, and they really have. Their turnover margin's been horrific. When that's in the first part of the season, it was actually a lot better. And of course, you're right, that the turnover has been horrible. A lot of that is Wilson trying to do too much. And, also he's doing so much because I don't think he feels confident about, other than George Pickens, Joe. I think he drops back, and I think he sits there and he's like, well, I got Van Jefferson and Mike Williams, who shows up once every 4 games. So can you blame the guy in a way? I don't know. I mean, just hasn't worked out.
There was a pass that actually went to Van Jefferson, and for some reason, like Jefferson could have like moved up to grab the ball. For some reason, he sits back and waits for the defensive back to fight him, and the defensive back did fight him. Like, Van Jefferson, what are you doing, dude? You get one target a game, and you still screwed up. Come on, you had one job.
Right, you did have one job, and he wasn't getting any separation. I think that's what you're going to see. The Ravens are going to make sure they'll play cover one. They're going to bracket Pickens or Muth, and they're going to make it very hard on Russell Wilson to beat them. And I think they have a really good shot at containing Najee and Jalen Warren. Somebody, somehow, if you're going to beat the Ravens, a turnover game. They need to get the turnovers. They need to score off the turnovers, and more than field goals. Now, look, all hail Boz. He's incredible. He's the NFL scoring leader. That's both a very good thing. It's also a very bad thing, because that means he's kicking a lot of field goals because we can't score touchdowns. So, in Boz we trust, yes. But once again, man, I don't care. You can't ride Boz's leg all the way to New Orleans. You need your guys. You need your players like Wilson and Najee to come through. And you're sitting there with Najee has 6 touchdowns on the year. I'm not saying he's got to have 20, but you look at some of these other guys that have gone elsewhere and they have 15 to 14 to 13 touchdowns. And I've just been waiting for Najee to keep breaking through, Joe, and it just hasn't happened. And it's a running game we don't have right now. And it's a badly misused running game. Like I said, I think we're running Harris on plays we should be running Jalen Warren. We're running Jalen Warren on plays we should be running Najee Harris.
I don't know why he is. It's like Tomlin or Arthur Smith have this stubborn streak in them that says we must play Najee on these certain plays. We must play Jalen Warren on these certain plays. I don't understand it. You're right. That toss play would probably work with Jalen Warren. And let's not, we didn't even talk about that disaster at the end of the first half. Yet again, another time game management disaster. That's all on Tomlin. Where
look what they've lost. Yeah.
They had the 4th and 1 on their own, like 35 or 40 or whatever, and they give it to Jalen Warren. What the heck are you people doing? Like, and Tomlin said, if you can't gain 1 yard, then you don't even deserve to win. Okay, fine, but what do you do? You just handed them 3 points. Guess what? You lost by 2. That was the game right there.
Exactly. You lost by 2 because earlier. It kills me. It's 18 years. 18. What are we? We've exhausted this so much. 18 years, and the guy doesn't know a time clock, doesn't understand these things, and it's evident that he doesn't. He just doesn't know. And if you think that we're wrong, I mean, you look at it. That's a 2-5. They went 2-5 over the last 7 games, folks. It's a collapse. No matter which way. The only way this isn't a collapse is if they somehow beat Baltimore. And I'm sorry, I still think they got to advance another round. Beating Baltimore would be somewhat impressive, but you got to beat somebody else. And to me, I am getting that jive. Younger guys are watching right now. Younger ladies that are watching. You aren't going to remember this. Joe and I remember this well. It was 1989. Steelers had to go to the House of Pain against Jerry Glanville, that little schmuck.
And who Chuck Noll wanted to fight.
Yes, who we had no chance in. They came in and they were dirty, playing dirty ball against us the couple games. And we go in there and Gary Anderson kicks a winning field goal in overtime. We win 23-20. We go on the next week and they damn near beat the Broncos I think they
John
lost 24
Elway
to 23
in Denver.
In Denver. Bubby Brister had a decent game. So that's why I think Joe and I are saying anything is possible. So if you're going to totally count them out, you're crazy, because we've seen enough football in our lives and enough situations like that 89 AFC divisional game. And that was a very tough place to play. Houston, the Oilers, back in the day, were very, very tough at that.
That was a
home.
loaded team. That
Loaded
was Warren Moon, Alonzo Highsmith. They had like an
Ernest
all-star at almost
Givens.
every single position.
Yes. Loaded team, great defense, and we won, and we kind of outcoached them. So,
and if you'll remember, that was the year 1989 when they started out with a 51-0 loss to the Browns, and in the very next week a 41-10 loss to the Bengals. They started out 92-10, and they still made the playoffs. That is a Chuck Noll masterclass right there, with Bubby Brister and Merrill Hodge as your guys.
Yeah. So that's why it's possible. I could see something like that maybe coming to fruition, but I feel you still gotta win.
See, I'll tell you another reason why it's possible. And you look at, it's like, let's say they do beat the Ravens and they have to play the Chiefs or something like that. I could see, it was a complete blowout disaster on Christmas, but at that game there was no Joey Porter, and no Joey Porter Jr. When there's no JPJ, that means they had no corners. I don't think Corey Trice was available that game either. They had no corners that could do press man coverage, so it was all zone. So we just handed them 7, 8, 9 yards every single thing, and Mahomes is like, "Oh, thank you very much. There you go." But if you play press man on those guys, maybe things change. And I don't know, maybe if somebody would, cover Travis Kelce, that would be that would have been nice. Revelation.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, you might want to put somebody on him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that's where the Ravens, it does get a little scary when you start breaking it down, because again, Saturday, the defense played well enough to win. Corey Trice led the team in tackles, for God's sakes. You had Peyton Wilson, who had a phenomenal game, 10 tackles of his own. TJ Watt kind of showed up a little bit. He was better. Elliott was good. Highsmith was good. Everybody you need to be good on a defense was good.
Deshaun Elliott came back too, and that's a huge thing.
That's a huge get.
And but he was not there for when they played the Ravens before.
Right, and one thing that Cameron Sutton is very good at is he is very good at run stopping. So, we'll see what they can do against King Henry. Now, is the Ravens going to go back and run King Henry all over us, or are the Steelers going to be able to effectively stop that? The other thing, though, too, is one thing that's been scary, and I talked about this the last couple of weeks, and I don't know why it is, but it feels to me like, if you look at it from a fantasy perspective or reality perspective, fantasy football, tight ends seem to get hot from like week 10 on. And right now, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are playing very good for the Ravens. Andrews, again, started off notoriously slow. He's caught on quite a bit lately. That's a problem the Steelers have to do with two very good tight ends. One's better. Andrews is a much better receiver. Likely's got some speed.
He's underrated,
and he's got a good jump, and so they've got their hands full. But it's nothing that I don't think this defense can handle. I think going in that Ravens game, can the offense show up and figure out a way to score some points? Because I think if they're going to beat them, Joe, I think they got to score at least 21 to 27 points to beat them. You're going to have to put that up.
Now, another thing to consider, for some reason, I don't even know why the Ravens were playing anybody against Cleveland. I mean,
right?
You mean and 9 other people can beat Cleveland at this point, but right. But they lost Zay Flowers. Possibly they lost him for this game. Their number one receiver, their Pro Bowl receiver, they just lost. If that cuts down on their passing game. And yes, they still have Andrews and Likely and
Bateman and some of the other guys.
Bateman. They still have weapons, but if you just lost one of your best weapons, maybe they're going to run more, and maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll decide to stop Derrick Henry this time. I don't know.
Zay Flowers is what we don't have right now, and in particular is what Russell Wilson doesn't have. Zay Flowers lines up everywhere, and he's become the go-to guy for Lamar Jackson out there. Whether they land him up in the slot. They move him around so much, and he knows, and he's a very smart route runner. He's a very intelligent football player. And that's something a quarterback needs, and that's just something we don't have. And it just we don't. And I still feel Pickens runs some routes wrong. Like we talked about that whole game in the end zone. We're like, did Pickens run the wrong route? And Mike Tomlin's like, oh no, like, yeah, he did, dude. He ran the wrong route. So yeah, and that's a big part of their offense, Joe. So that's why I'm saying that the tight ends, Derrick Henry, become a big factor on Saturday night, and it's going to be cold. Just watch the weather there. It's like 30 degrees, wind chill factor. It's going to be darn cold.
It is way too early to forecast weather, but not only is it going to be cold, they're forecasting 8.5 inches of snow in Baltimore on Saturday.
Really? 8.5
we
inches?
We could have a snow game.
That could be. That would totally change everything if they have 8.5 inches of snow in Baltimore. That changes everything. My gosh, that's like the snowplow game.
Snow's an equalizer.
Right. So, I mean, that could definitely that totally equalizes the playing field there. Yeah. I mean, obviously they'll get the field clear. You see what Buffalo, we've seen up here where Buffalo gets, and they get that cleared. But yeah, that can definitely. Well, you saw with the Browns game, right? You saw the Browns game.
Unless it snows during the game, then that could be interesting.
That was an equalizer for sure. I mean, that's George Pickens. He was the one complaining about the snow, and to my knowledge, and we talk about all the history you and I know of, the only Steeler I've ever heard complain about snow. But I mean, whew.
Pickens needs to get right. There is something very bad going on with that guy. He has basically become ineffective these past couple games. It's basically acknowledged that he caused that interception against the Chiefs because he didn't run where he was supposed to, and everybody's trying to coddle him. And God forbid a member of the media asks him about it. Why are you people? What? Anybody that defends Pickens on that? What's wrong with you?
That's not a fair question. It's not a fair question. I couldn't believe he said that. I don't know, and I think honestly, and we've talked about this. Last year was probably one of the most fun times we ever had doing this show off season, to the point where we usually were pretty good about getting together each week. But last year we were like, we just kept going with the show every week because
something was always happening.
It was interesting. It was fun. And I think we're going to be with that same juncture this year because I don't know what's going to happen with this kid, no matter what happens, unless they go win the Super Bowl. It's going to be some kind of drama, man. It's going to play out. I'm going to be glued to the day they clean out their lockers because God knows what he's going to say.
Right.
You
have to trade him. There's no way you could sign him to a long-term deal. And that means that he'll be a lame duck in his last year. And you think he's bad now.
Right. Wait till next year.
Goodness. Yeah. Wait till next year. You have to trade him. Hopefully you get something for him, but it is just absolutely, there were so many shots in that Bengals game of, first of all, he was fighting fans. He was arguing with fans. Mm-hmm. Dude, what are you doing? There were several people. There was Russell Wilson, I believe, Freiermuth, I believe one of the offensive linemen coming over and just trying to talk to him. Like, come on, guys.
And that's
how much do we have to coddle this guy?
It's such a great point. You're coddling this guy in week 18. This happens in his rookie season. Growing pains, whatever you want to call it, you get coddled, you help out, you find a guy. You shouldn't be going on, the year he's going and still getting coddled in week 18. It's time to, But the interesting dynamic of that is if they trade him, which to your point is probably a good one, it's probably the best option. They're very much in a precarious position because they're in a precarious position now.
Who's going to want him?
Yeah. If let's say they get rid of him, he goes somewhere. Who the hell do they have left? They have nobody on here. I mean, they are literally a team without a number one. They might be a team without a number one receiver now. I've said that all along. When you traded Deontay, that makes Pickens a number one receiver. There's two ways to be a number one receiver. One, the physical talent, but also the mental capability of being a number one receiver. He does have the physical talents. He doesn't have the mental capability to be one. He's proven that. He's proven that. He just doesn't have it. And
the people that say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, where he could thrive, I think, if you trade him, let's say he goes to like Indianapolis or maybe Green Bay, and he becomes
Kansas
the
City.
slot guy. Kansas City, he's a slot guy. He's a guy that doesn't have all the pressure on him. That's where he might become very much in his element, dangerous. However, I say that, but his problems, Joe, have been following him ever since he was at the University of Georgia. We all knew it when they brought him. They mentioned it the day they drafted him on NFL Draft. Like, well, he's had some issues. Guess what? It's 2025 now. He still has the issues.
He's been coddled his entire life. He's been because he has incredible talent.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness, this is what happened. It's just unbelievable. And the people that say, "Whoa, this is typical Steelers diva wide receiver, just like Antonio Brown." Don't you compare them to?
No.
Antonio Brown was a Hall of Famer that balled out every single game. Yes, he was a nutcase off the field and on the sideline, but on the field he produced every single time. And now Pickens basically, if he catches some of those passes, some of those targets he had against Cincinnati, we're talking about a win. We're talking about a 2019 win right now.
Win. Yeah, we really are. It made a difference in seeding. We could have. It just, yeah. And that's why it's those kind of things. So in order to go beat Baltimore, him and Russell got to get on the same page. Because if Pickens doesn't play well, and let's say gets 6 catches for 80 yards or 100 yards or whatever and a touchdown, I think they're fried. You need Freiermuth to come through again. And you need the running backs to step up, which you haven't really done that all this year. Maybe a few games here and there. It's a big, big ask, but like you said, and I agree, not necessarily impossible.
I think he's mad at Russ.
Oh yeah, I'm just mad at everybody, Joe.
Oh, he's mad at, but you know that whole thing with that interception because Pittsburgh media dared ask him about it, and he's like, "Oh, Russell said we're not on the same page." Oh yeah, and then he just walked away. I don't know. Maybe he's mad. It's like, "Oh yeah, you don't like me? You're mad at me? Well, I'll just drop the ball on purpose." What do you think of that? It would not surprise me if he was that immature.
I agree, and that's what I was kind of watching that with the wife on. I think it was Saturday night, and I'm like, is he that bad or is he doing this on purpose? And, I normally would not entertain that, Joe. I really wouldn't. Because guys just have bad games, no matter who you are in life. I mean, you have bad days at work. You have bad games on Sundays. It just seemed like and the reason I think that is his attitude and his arrogance in that attitude would not surprise me if he just said, yeah, not going to catch this one.
He could have quiet quit. Maybe he knows he's gone after this game and the next game. He says, "Oh, screw these people. I'm not going to try for these people. I'll be fine."
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they're going to have to find out a way. And again, defense too. Mike Gesicki had a pretty good game. 8 catches of his own, 68 yards, almost had a touchdown. So they're going to have to figure out a way to shut down Andrews and Likely. And then, without Zay Flowers, that helps. It definitely helps the cause. But then you also have one of the better running backs in NFL history sitting over there. And last time he ate you for lunch. So, I don't know.
I'm calling it. I'm calling upset. I think the Steelers are going to somehow pull out a win.
All right. I don't say you're crazy for saying that, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I think Steelers lose. I'm going to say they're going to lose 27-14, something like that.
I mean, yeah. Covering sounds like a good idea. This could be a total blowout. This could be this could be an absolute blowout. The Ravens could be on a mission because the Ravens have not exactly had the greatest postseason history either.
Yeah, it's very
Lamar Jackson is 2-4 in the playoffs, which is not that great. I mean, but nobody is giving the Steelers a chance at all.
No.
And that's usually when the upsets happen.
It is usually when the upsets happen. And the ramification of it, though, would be this, too. If the Ravens were to win, that sends us into a 5-game spiral once again, 8 years in a row, no playoff, and the Steelers have to go off and they have to deal with that. We have guys like you and I will talk about it, and they'll be questioning Mike Tomlin and doing all this stuff. The Ravens, meanwhile, if they're able to beat the Steelers in a playoff game, boy, I tell you, that really puts them up on a pretty big high. I feel like they probably feel like, holy crap, we beat the Steelers at home on a playoff game, or at our home, and we could beat the Bills, we could beat the Chiefs, we can beat anybody now.
This is our year.
Yeah, that's the funny thing how that works if it goes that way.
The weird thing is, Steelers and Ravens have played in the playoffs against each other a few times. Never in Baltimore. It's always been in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it's
weird.
I will say though, the Baltimore fans, you give them credit. I mean, they do a really good job of selling out that place. It's loud. They have a lot of fun there. It's going to be a hostile crowd without question. Those Ravens fans will be up for it. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be very interesting one way or the other. I appreciate that we are fans of a team that provides such quality content.
Yeah.
What are they saying in Jacksonville? Like, great, we have another coach. What are they saying, in some other
Arizona
right?
Let's talk about that rumor. I thought that's been kicking up here real quick before we end the show. All the stuff that has Kyler Murray coming here. There's been a lot of talk about that, and I don't know. I know he was a rookie of the year. I know what he can do, but that's been interesting. And that'll be more for conversation here if we lose this weekend and go into next weekend. And we say,
I'd rather have Kyler Murray than Aaron freaking Rodgers or Kirk freaking Cousins. I'd rather have somebody that was born in this millennium.
Yeah, right. Not when you and I went to high school.
Right.
It's like it could happen that way. We'll have to see, but that's all going to be some fun. That's why I'm saying that no matter what happens Sunday or Saturday, that is, it should be fun in the weeks coming. But be a lot more fun if the Steelers could go in there and win. It would be nice to stick it to Baltimore fans and the Ravens by winning in Baltimore in the playoffs and sending that team home.
I have a feeling. I just got I don't know.
Well, we got somebody saying, I'll take Murray any day.
Okay.
You're probably not wrong. I mean, when we talk about what Russell Wilson's had to work with here, it's not been very good. And Kyler Murray, likewise, hasn't had a lot to work with in Arizona too, although I would take James Conner back in a heartbeat. And, the tight end there is really come out of nowhere and been a pretty good tight end. But other than that, he has not had a good receiving core.
Kyler Murray needs weapons.
Right. So, yeah.
He is when he got drafted, I laughed and said, "Oh, this guy is way too small. He's a tiny person." And I have all the respect for him because he is using his vast athletic ability in a league that has nothing but people that have vast athletic ability, but he's still more athletic than them. I mean, I remember there was one game against the Raiders where he literally just ran around like kids in a playground, like when we were in grade school, just running around, and he just ran around and scored a touchdown. It was just the silliest thing.
It would have been interesting if he would have had like Fitz in his prime or something like that. But
oh god, yeah.
Kyler Murray going to a team with a decent, talent around him could be very interesting. So to this guy's point, if they bring Kyler Murray in, we gotta supply him. I mean, Muth's good. He's, to me, at least this season, solidified. He's worthy of bringing him back and keep on running with him. But they need to build a better team. Now, your fan here, also Joe, our guy's asking, how do you guys feel about Justin Fields for the playoffs? Well, you could do that, but that's a hell of a turnaround to just arbitrarily pull Russell Wilson and insert him in there. That sends a lot of mixed messages, but it's just so crazy enough. It could work.
Okay. But right now they are absolutely horrible on third and short and fourth and short.
Correct.
So, it can't get any worse. I think Justin Fields' injury really put the kibosh on those packages and stuff. But maybe they're saving them for the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe Justin Fields can save the day. I mean, he could out Lamar Jackson.
He could. I mean, it's not out of their own possibility. Definitely, I wouldn't rule it out. The only thing that scares me is the history, right? When you take how bad our offensive line's been lately, and that's, he struggled mightily in Chicago with a very bad offensive line. Well, our offensive line, guys, the last couple weeks has been that bad. Yeah. And now you're going to put that kid in against the line that's allowed 33 sacks since week 7.
With our luck, he would fumble.
And he is a turnover machine. Like I said, a lot of people ignore the fact, right? When he was playing, he fumbled the ball 6 times. He recovered them 5. And we could have easily lost a couple games had he not recovered. He was a turnover machine when he was here, too. That hasn't been left in Chicago.
That's the
problem. And guess what? Yeah. And Mike Tomlin's point, you want to bring in a guy that's a turnover machine against the Ravens, you are asking for an ass whooping then. One thing we have to do Saturday is protect the ball.
Right. No, you have to play the perfect game to defeat the Ravens. You can't do. And another thing, what's going on with the special teams? Calvin Austin had a fumble that was crucial that just I believe handed Cincinnati points. Like, the special teams are supposed to be a strength, and they've almost been a weakness this past few weeks.
Yeah, that's been bad too. I agree, and that's one thing that's been strong for us. And the punting was actually pretty good, and but that turnover was that ended up costing us some points, and that was bad. And that was Mike Tomlin's point too, right? Last Monday, not this Monday, last Monday, saying we got to fix that. We can't turn over the ball against this, and here you go and did it, and again, it kind of cost you the game.
Yeah.
So, but not a bad point about Justin Fields. I like the guy's point, and I mean, bring him in on some packages, but and I think what the guy's saying too, Joe, to this guy's point, it says Pensman Sports, so cool name.
Our first commenter.
Yeah,
you're
nice job.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I think to his point is they need something to shake it up, because what's been working lately, nothing's been working. So, do you bring Justin Fields in to mix it up a little bit? Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, what do you have to lose on Saturday, right? I'm not saying that you bring in Justin Fields and he plays the whole game. But you trot him out there on second down or something like that. The Ravens got to sit there. Whoa, wait a minute, and maybe that's not bad. Throw everything at him,
right?
But be ready for the Rams.
Almost have nothing to lose. That's the kind of the kind of benefit of sliding into the playoffs. They didn't slide into the playoffs. They didn't even stumble into the playoffs. They just I don't know what they just crawled into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's kind of like in a Royal Rumble when you get thrown over the top rope, but you kind of hang on to the bottom rope before you fall out and you roll back into the rope. You're like, well, wait a minute. Oh, he's still in the Royal Rumble. And we're still in the Royal Rumble, but we're one of the guys in the back corner, getting tossed around pretty good.
That's it's almost the benefit. And I believe Cam Hayward said, hey, we're playing with house money. It's like nobody's expecting anything from us. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be either way. It's going to be fascinating.
It will. So, hey, Joe, great show. I love the new format.
Hey, our first live show. Thanks for everybody watching. We actually had a pretty good audience. That's awesome. And Pensman Sports, our first commenter.
Yeah. Thank you, Pensman Sports. Thanks for everybody watching, man. Great stuff.
All right. Good night, everybody.
See you, Joe. Good night, everybody.